Hey guys, I want to make a video going over my full feedback for 0.2 mapping, why I really dislike this patch, why I'm not having fun, and why I'm most likely just quitting this patch for now. Very unfortunate, but yeah, I'm just not having fun, and I feel like a lot of the people probably feel the same. 0.2 mapping is what I care for, it's what I do the most. I only really map in this game, I don't really care for anything else, and it's just not fun in PoE 2. For reference, I'm the type of person who plays any type of patch for like 2 months straight. I play like every PoE 1 patch for 2 months straight. I just non-stop grind, non-stop farm. But in 0.2, I'm just not having fun, which is kind of a first in PoE, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, the last time I felt like this was like League of Calandra, and League of Calandra lasted for like 3 days. This patch lasted like 10 days, but yeah, it's just not fun. I made this whole text document here, over 4,000 characters, going over what I really dislike about the current endgame at the current mapping, and what are solutions that we can do to actually improve it. Usually I just list problems, but I also did want to list solutions here because I honestly feel like currently GG doesn't understand like why some of these things are just not fun, and I really do hope they are improved. I want to play PoE 2 all day, I really do, but man, it just feels like an absolute chore to do current endgame mapping, and I really hope it's fixed for 0.3. So what is my first main issue? So I have many issues and minor issues. My first main issue is towers. Towers still feel like a giant chore. You spend half your time, or maybe less than half your time, looking for a 3-tower layout. It's more or less the same issue in 0.1. In 0.1, you look for like a 5 or 6 tower overlap. Now you look for a 3-tower overlap, which is just as rare because they made towers more rare. So yeah, looking for a 3-tower overlap, first looking for a 6-tower overlap in 0.1. It's exactly the same chore. It's still not fun despite reducing the amount of towers in the game. But 2 to 3 towers is at minimum 50% more juice, but it's more like 80 to 100% more returns because juice in this game is multiplicative, like quant is multiplicative rarity, which is multiplicative with increased rare monsters on your map, which is multiplicative also with your player rarity. So yeah, it's more like 100% more returns on 3 towers. It is so much more juice in 2 towers that it feels once again like mandatory to do, just like how the 5 or 6 tower setup in 0.1 also felt pretty mandatory if you really wanted good loot, because if you're just doing like 1 or 2 towers, your loot feels really trash. So what is the solution here? I have 2 solutions here. You either make towers spawn in pairs, so 3 tower setups just can't be a thing, and 2 tower setups become really plentiful. You just design it to where towers just cannot overlap more than 2. This would make it so like anywhere in the atlas is viable to go, because there's 2 tower setups everywhere in the atlas, right? It's not that hard whatsoever. It's just when you're searching for 3 tower setups, it becomes really tedious because it feels so much better than 2 tower setups, and the juice returns are just way more massive. But yeah, 2 tower setups are everywhere in the atlas, and it wouldn't be an issue if it were just limited to 2. And also another issue with searching for 3 towers, you also end up in situations like this, where you can't see stuff in the fog of war. So if you see a 3 tower setup in the fog of war, you go to it, and it might end up like this, where yeah, it's just water in the middle and your tower setup is completely dead. This feels like shit. I don't know how they could change this. Obviously change the 2 towers only, you won't have this, but yeah, when you get a 3 tower setup and in the middle is just water, it feels so bad because it feels like you just wasted so much of your time. So anyway, that is my big major issue with towers. Another solution, and one I like more, is just don't lock juice in behind towers. Is there an actual or good reason why juice is locked behind towers? Because I can't think of one. There's already good reasons to explore the atlas, right? You have citadels, you have corruptions, you have unique maps, and they also add more stuff to explore. So you're going to explore the atlas regardless if juice was behind towers or not. I don't think there's a reason juice has to be locked behind towers. And even if towers didn't have juice, you would still do them, because they reveal a large portion of your atlas and also reveal like citadels in the distance. They are still extremely useful even if juice weren't tied to them. So personally, yeah, I would like the tablets to not be tied to towers. Maybe instead the tablets are more so tied to like your map or like your map device. So it'll be like a tablet window right here. You put 3 tablets in, and then for the next 15 maps, you get those 3 tablet effects. You can also make them more powerful in exchange because it'll only be 3, or you can make it like 6 tablets or whatever, right? Either way, I don't think tablets need to be locked behind towers for juice. It currently just feels terrible. Towers had to be fixed for 0.3. The current endgame mapping experience is just not fun. Another big problem of mine is Tedium in the endgame is way too high, especially when compared to PoE 1. You have map rolling, for example, only rarity maps are useful. So you go to a map tab, you look for only rarity maps, you put in your regex, like rarity of items found, right? And then you only take out rarity maps because every other map is pointless. You don't care for a map that has like increased amount of rare chests. This is an entirely pointless mod. It does absolutely nothing, and it's way worse than rarity. And a lot of players don't even know how impactful rarity on the map is. It's multiplicative with your player rarity. It's a massive difference of both currency and rare loot drops, which is a big portion of your currency gains. If you're not running rarity maps, you're just making way less currency. It is so mandatory to run these maps currently in the game. So you have map rolling, you have tablets, 3-to-1 tablets with a reforged bench, and you have to roll them like transmutation, aug them all, and then only certain mods of those tablets are worth running, just like maps, and they have to have quant on the tablet pretty much. And then distilled emotions and corrupting. So there's so much to do just to run one map in PoE. It's so tedious and time consuming. I don't really see why a lot of this can be reduced. I'll talk about that later. First things first is like, why can't the distills be applied to the maps directly like how it is in PoE 1? So just to show, I'm on Path of Exile 1 right now. If you don't know how instills work in this game, all you do is click it, hold down shift, and there, that's it. It's done. It's so much faster and so much less tedious. I don't know why they made it strictly worse in PoE 2. It makes absolutely no sense. Just make it work exactly like PoE 1. What was wrong with this method? So yeah, in PoE 2, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is what it looks like, where you have to right click to distill paranoia, put in your map, put in all 3 paranoias, then click instill, and then click the map out. It's so much less work, and it's all these minor things adding up that makes the map experience unfun, especially in the higher end, and even on the lower end as well, right? I don't think searching for towers for anyone is fun at all. Next solution is rework map mods. Maybe make it more generic like Path of Exile 1. Every map mod adds quant, rarity, and pack size. In PoE 2, it's only the prefix that matter, and the suffix essentially don't matter. This give you waystone drop chance, which you don't really care for when you start high-end juicing, you have infinite sustain anyway. If every map mod did matter though, you would just go for 6 mods every map. You wouldn't care what prefix or suffix they have, because they all have quant and rarity and pack size. It would make it way less tedious. You just pick out any map, as long as you can like run the modifiers, like just, pen or something, exalt, and good to go. You won't have to look for only rarity maps. This change would also vastly improve loot for the average player, because I'm sure the average player doesn't even know about running only rarity waystones. Once again, if you aren't running only rarity waystones, you definitely should be. It's a lot better loot. Like I said, allow the stills to be plenty of maps like Tedium in PoE 1. I just showed that. Not sure what exactly to do with tablets, but currently they feel way more tedious and scarce than PoE 1, so yeah, I think that should just be changed. My next major issue is all lead mechanics feel absolutely useless, and the Atlas also feels pointless. These kind of go hand to hand. Solution, massively buff every lead mechanic. What's the point of these huge maps if we're skipping every single lead mechanic inside it? Like, why are they huge in the first place then, right? We should want to do every single lead mechanic that pops up. It should feel exciting and it should be rewarding. Currently, you just skip pretty much every lead mechanic unless you're fully invested into it. In my opinion, the Atlas tree needs an entire rework. We need way more investment into the lead mechanics. You should be able to fully spec into any type of lead mechanic and get massive returns out of it. Currently, this Atlas tree is just so boring and you can barely invest into anything. Rogue Exiles have a maximum 9 points, and you don't even take all these points even if you do Rogue Exiles. So yeah, there should be like 3 times more choices and Rogue Exile nodes here, and this is true for everything, like Whiffs, Essence, Strongbox, Shrines, right? We need way more options and way more points in Atlas tree. The PoE 1 Atlas tree is like 130 points with like 10 times more nodes. It's way more interesting and way better than this, because yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Everything feels worthless, and every Atlas tree is going to end up looking like this, where you're just taking map effect and like rarity and quant nodes, because these other Atlases are just worthless. They don't even feel worth taking. But lead mechanics right now, like Rogue Exiles, just feel absolutely awful. For example, even if you fully spec into Exiles and Atlas tree, you still only have a 20% chance of seeing 1 Exile every single map. So 1 in 5 maps. That is just completely trash, and it's like not fun. Like, you want to fully invest into Exiles, maybe make them more tanky but more rewards, and you see them every single map and you interact with them every single map. That would be a lot more enjoyable gameplay experience, in my opinion at least. To go over quickly what every lead mechanic should at least get at a base improvement. Strongbox needs way more loot, drops practically nothing. I don't know, Strongbox are still useless. I don't know why they aren't buffed. Again, they still feel just as useless as 0.1. The monsters just spawn faster. At the very least, unique Strongboxes do feel good, so that is nice. That was a nice addition in 0.2. Virtual, we need the item filter applied to the virtual window. If you don't know what this is, in Path of Exile 1, you can apply your loot filter to the item window, which makes all the bad items automatically just gray out, so you don't have to bother with them, you don't have to hover them, and it makes the good items highlight so you can quickly see if they're worth taking. And the ritual itself should drop some amount of loot. I don't know why the ritual feels like it drops absolutely 0 loot. It should drop some amount of loot like in PoE 1. For Breach, please take away the 1-drop splinters. This is something Jonathan even promised, that the majority of splinters would not drop in 1 stacks, and now we're 2 patches in, and once again, the majority of splinters are still 1-stack drops. It does not feel fun picking up 100 individual splinters every single map. Why is this not changed? I'm not sure why. Also, increased amount of rare monsters, they vastly reduce the power of Breach, and it feels really terrible now. It should get another buff in my opinion. It was nerfed way too hard. Give it like 2 or 3 more additional rares at least. Tedium to get the PoE 1 scale in, so higher deli equals higher monster quant, which means more loot. For example, in Path of Exile 1, 100% delirium is 50% monster quant, which is 50% more loot, but it's also like 90% damage reduction. In PoE 2, 150% deli does not feel more rewarding than like 45% deli. So it's really weird. They should make it way more rewarding, but also way more challenging. Exile, I just talked about it, but they're completely worthless right now. They die in one hit, they have like no HP. I would say just buff their loot by 20 times, like actually 20 times buff, and make them like 10 times more challenging. So they're actually like a real fight, like a mini map boss, but they drop a lot of loot in return. Wisps barely feel like they add any loot to the game right now, and you also have to wait for them to power the mobs, which is just terrible gameplay. I really feel like Wisps just need an entire rework. I don't see a world where you have to wait and not attack the monsters for the Wisps to go through them, and for that gameplay to actually feel rewarding and fun. I don't know. Having to wait to kill monsters in an RPG is just not fun, and it never will be fun. My last major issue is loot. Loot is not exciting, only things are divines and keys, which are both very rare in 0.2. And once again, most uniques still feel bad. There's a few drop uniques that do sell for a little bit, but yeah, most of them still feel terrible, especially one compared to PoE 1. The solution is we just need more extended drops in the game. Stuff like div cards are coming, which would help of course, but the current rare loot is just way too rare. For example, an average player should find more than one divine every 8 hours. If you want to see my pilfer ring personally, I have 48 raw divine drops, 2,000 exalts, and 4 perfect jewelers. I think the average player is probably somewhere around like 1 to 4 divines, and there might be like 40 or 50 hours played. It takes way too long to find a single divine. I at most at maximum juice my fast character, 90% move speed, I find like 1 divine an hour at max. And like, things are just fun to hear, right? Like dropping this and hearing this noise is what makes PoE endgame fun. Hearing this over and over and over again is what's actually fun about farming this game. So when you only hear this like once every 8 hours, it just feels bad because the other 7 hours just aren't fun to play. Tiered gear also feels too rare if you have no rarity. I think the amount of rare drops is fine, so keep the amount of rare drops in total the same, but increase the chance of seeing tiered rares. I think tiered rares are a great system, and it's a system I want in PoE 1 actually, but currently if you're not running rarity with like a full juice atlas, they are just too rare for the average player. They should be a bit more common. Now the last issues I want to rapidly go over is minor issues. These are minor issues, the last 4 were my big 4 major issues that I really want to fix in 0.3. These issues aren't as big, and if they aren't fixed in 0.3, not a big deal, but I'll go over them real quick. First problem, having to buy juice from trade. So this was fixed in Path of Exile 1. I'm not sure why they introduced it in PoE 2 with unique tablets. I think unique tablets are a really cool idea, but having to buy these constantly from trade is just so unfun. Once again, we fixed this in PoE 1, where you just buy scarabs and you buy all your map juice from the currency exchange, in this case Alva, but you can't buy this from Alva. So you have to go on trade and keep constantly buying these unique tablets, which is not a fun and enjoyable experience. Solution is just change the unique tablet into another former item that can be tradable on the currency exchange, or make them into a special tablet with no row rangers, and you can just buy them on the currency exchange with no issue. Next is Reforged Bench. The problem is the Reforged Bench. Reforge over your soul emotions before defending this. I think the Reforged Bench is just absolutely really trash. It takes way too long. The animation, I don't know why it's there. Solution, you can keep the Reforged Bench. Like sure, it's very intuitive for new players, but add the same vendor function that we have in PoE 1. In PoE 1, you can just use the vendor to do the same thing that Reforged Bench does. So for example, for Distilled Emotions, for example, you can just go to a vendor, you could put all 3 in here, and it'll give you the 1 tier higher. But in PoE 2, you have to use a Reforged Bench and do this 1 at a time, which is just, yeah, I don't know what they're thinking, but this is just not it. Another issue is movement speed. It's way too scarce. We need more ways to obtain it. And stuff like unique boots feel absolutely worthless if they have like 10 to 20% MS, because you get 35% MS from your boots and you don't have 35%, the game feels bad to play. I think a good solution is add more movement speed options to the game, not necessarily increase the speed of the game all that much, just add more options to the game so people can invest into it. The game feels really good at like 60 to 80% MS, but only a handful of classes can actually reach that. So Monk, Huntress, and Ranger are pretty much the only classes that can reach that. Maybe Witch Hunter as well, although it's a little bit harder for them. But yeah, playing any other class that can't reach these move speed nodes in the tree, like all in the Ranger area or in the Monk area, just feels absolutely trash. It does not feel fun playing like a Witch and moving at 20% move speed in the end game. It does not feel fun if you're playing a more so melee mercenary. You have to go over here, you grab no movement speed nodes, and you just move at 20%. It just feels bad. If every class at a baseline could reach that 60 to 80% mark, and then maybe at the top end with very high investment can reach 120% MS, I really feel like a small change like that would make the game way more fun and enjoyable to play, especially because we're in giant, huge maps. If we're going to be playing these giant, huge maps, we should have a little bit more base movement speed. Running at a massive map with 20% MS, and you have to walk for miles, it's just not very fun. One last minor thing to complain about is downside on shrines. I don't really see why we need a downside on clicking a shrine. If you're not paying attention, you click a green shrine and you just break all your loot for the next minute until you notice and click it off. solution, just remove corruption shrine and change greed shrine to where you get 100% gold quant instead of converting all your drops. I just don't see why shrines see the downside in this game. It really makes no sense when you click on it and you just get a complete negative downside. So yeah, please change this. But anyway, that's my entire feedback video for 0.2. Unfortunately, I feel like I am probably just going to stop here. Once again, I'm usually the type of player who can play for 12 to 14 hours every single day for like a month plus 6-8 weeks, but I just can't at 0.2. It's just not a fun and enjoyable experience. I really want to enjoy the game, but I just can't right now. I do hope that 0.3 will fix the majority of these issues. I do believe in GG will make a really good ARPG eventually, but currently PoE 2 is just not it. And yeah, I'm just not having fun. That's pretty much a TLDR. If you're not having fun, why play? So maybe I'll try out Last Epoch or something, but yeah, that's about it.